And that was, I think, I do have a couple of different stories in which I feel like probably not the worst fails ever, but still failures that were things that I set out to accomplish. And
so they're obviously memorable, right?
So I remember basically one of my first cases as I became a BCABA before I went to do my master's and become a BCBA. And so I had started working a little bit clinically in one of my first cases where it was like my case as a BCABA, and we'll call the kid Johnny.
Yeah.
And so I go and I met the family, and one of the things that the parent told me that was a real challenge for Johnny was to do homework. And Johnny was not diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder or any sort of developmental or intellectual disability. He was working with kids who just kind of had some rough circumstances and some fairly challenging behaviors. So his mom was like, "Can you get Johnny to do his homework?" So fairly common, kind of sounds like one of your cliche ABA stories, but this really actually did happen this way. So I come in and I was like, I'm a behavior analyst now, and I got my credentials and I'm ready to get Johnny to do his homework. So after I had built a little bit of rapport and met a couple times, then I decided to start getting into working with him on completing homework. So he had some math homework to do, and I was like, cool, we're gonna do this. So I was trying to figure out what am I gonna use as a motivator to come up with some sort of contingency. And at that point, Johnny's just like, "Hey man, I'm really thirsty." And I was like, ding, behavior analyst goes off in your head. And I'm like, ooh, I got a motivator, I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, what do you want? And he's like, just water. And I was like, great. So I get out a pitcher of water from the fridge, and I was like, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a little bit of some work, and then we'll take a break and have some water, and we'll do something fun, and then we'll go and do some more work. And he was like, yeah, that sounds good. And I was like, oh, cool, we're doing good so far.
Yeah.
So we break out the math worksheet, and he's like, starts working. And I was just like, yeah, this mom's over there, and she's like amazed, like, oh my gosh, he's doing his work.
Yeah.
So we get through the first couple of problems, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start reinforcing. So I take some water and I pour just about an ounce of water in the glass. And Johnny looks at me and he's like, yeah, man, that's good, but I'm really thirsty. Can I have some more water? And I was like, cool, he's still motivated, even better. Well, let's do a few more problems, and then I'll give you some more water. So he does some more work. So I give him another ounce of water, and he's like, so if I do the rest of the worksheet, can I have more water? And I was like, well, yeah, you're smart, man. You're catching on to this quick.
Yeah.
So he finishes the whole worksheet, and I'm there praising, and his mom's in the background like, wow, I've never seen you work this much, Johnny. You're doing such a great job. So he finishes the worksheet, and I go, nice job, man. I pour him the whole glass of water. He takes the water and he throws it in my face. So it was a good learning experience, because I realized what I thought I was doing and utilizing a method of using positive reinforcement and getting an increase in a behavior had nothing to do with the contingency.
Yeah.
And my naive behavior analyst self thought I had this kid, worked out, and I was going to get him to do this work. And found out very quickly that kids can be quite clever. And in this situation, it felt pretty fail as I stood there dripping wet.
Yeah.
So it doesn't end there, because then I was like, all right, I'm not gonna show this bothers me or do anything. And at this point, he had more work to do. So I thought, hey, I'm gonna show him that it doesn't matter what you do. I'm gonna keep the task in place. I'm not gonna let him escape this scenario, because I kind of thought that was maybe part of the whole thing. So I said, all right, well, we've still got other stuff to do. And I was trying to not have a chain. So I thought, let me break up this, let me break up what happened, and then I'll get him to do something else, and then I'll let him escape by completion.
Yeah.
So, trying to use relatively solid principles from an analytic point of view. So then he ended up doing a little bit more stuff, and I thought we were getting back on track as I'm dripping water wet, I'm soaked, and I was just acting like it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
And he progressively got into more challenging behavior episode stuff, and it started escalating. And basically he at one point started getting pretty aggressive, and I started backing off a little bit. And at that point, he runs into the kitchen and gets a knife. And I'm like, this is my first case by myself working, and I was like, I'm in over my head right now. And so I just remember the mom is sitting there, and she's like, put that down, don't you do that. And I'm like, no, don't even talk to him about it right now, like just. And so he starts like kind of coming towards me with the knife, and I'm like, I grab a pillow because I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And at that point, his mom goes, you don't have the guts. And I'm like, no. So I made it out of that one, other than being pretty wet and a little bit disappointed in how it went. But it was a really good learning experience because it just taught me a lot about the process and understanding functional relationships, particularly around like what you think is happening in front of you with behavior may not be just off of your brief look at what was happening by him increasing doing work. I wasn't truly reinforcing work behavior. The relationship was much more about him enabling a way to do an attention maintain type of behavior because I think if he wanted to escape, he had other ways in his repertoire he could have easily done, but I got outsmarted by an 8-year-old. And I
think we all have those stories of being outsmarted by.
Yeah, I think it was a good experience. It was definitely a fail, but one that got me to think about and learn about what is actually happening and what the contingency actually was versus what I thought it was.